Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, feeling well, and getting up and getting after it, and having a fantastic start to your day. Got you a pretty big update this morning as the severe weather threat has increased for today. You know, it always seems like we're about to enter a quieter period, and we never quite do. So we have an enhanced risk of severe weather today, based off the latest Storm Prediction Center update. And of course, we'll have another update here in the next 1 to 3 hours or so. I believe it drops about mid to late morning. So we'll see what that one says, but we already have an enhanced risk, and this is for an increased tornado risk. And I believe damaging winds are definitely going to be the biggest threat today, but the tornado risk has increased. So we're going to talk about a lot about that in this video and keep you guys covered. Eastern Kentucky, Kentucky in general, southern areas of the state, areas of eastern Tennessee, Western Virginia, even far southern West Virginia, and then even areas of North Carolina. The Carolinas in general could see some severe storms today. So we'll break that down for you guys, see who could see the worst weather, and then we'll talk about everybody else that we normally talk about also in this video. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's get rolling this morning. We check out water vapor loop and what's going on. It doesn't really show the picture that well, but you see this little disturbance right in here. That is kind of the energy that will refire up in this portion of the country a little bit later this afternoon. And I'm going to try to hold my hand still as possible, but I expect this area to be kind of the hot spot for the worst weather today. As more energy fires up, you got a lot of ingredients that kind of build back into this region, but a lot of areas, this entire region could see, storms today for sure. And then I would even watch this area right in here, Virginia, along the North Carolina Virginia state line. You could definitely have some severe weather in this portion too. Pretty early this afternoon, these storms will fire up, I think, right after lunchtime today. I think you'll have some pretty intense daytime heating. It'll really juice up the atmosphere, and then it'll get very active very quickly right after lunchtime today. So let's get this off the screen here. Let's get rolling. But there is a sharp cold front also digging down here. And this will actually cause temperatures to drop in certain areas throughout the afternoon today. But you look at what's going on the surface, and of course we'll start off by just kind of looking right at the area that's going to get hit by severe weather today. This is the energy I'm talking about. You're dealing with a lot of rain this morning in Illinois, areas of eastern Missouri, southern Indiana, Evansville, dealing with some heavy rain this morning. And this energy will continue to slowly kind of drift into northern Kentucky. And I would say the worst of the atmosphere, as far as the atmospheric players that could bring the worst of the weather, really builds kind of all the way up into this region right into here. So we're going to watch to see what kind of storm activity builds into this region right here. And, listen, there's some mountainous regions in here. The eastern Kentucky has some hills. You do have a plateau or a valley right in here is what I meant to say. Cumberland Plateau is right in here. You got a valley right in here. And then you got the higher elevations, obviously, right into here. So there could be some pretty nasty weather and some higher elevations. There is a flooding risk, too, in Kentucky. Kentucky knows all about flooding rains. So it's going to get quite active today in this region. And this is basically the energy that's going to refire. We'll watch this kind of southern mode refire up some severe weather here in the next coming several hours. So keep rolling here, and let's get this completely off the screen here. We'll keep rolling. Here's a broad look at what's going on from the Storm Prediction Center. Enhanced risk now up. I can't say that I didn't totally not expect this. I'd had a hunch it was going to happen. It was going to probably be for wind, and certainly that's what it is. There is an increased just low-level jet maximum, if you will. This is going to not just put a lot of winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. It also increases winds at the surface. So what I'm trying to say is these storms will have a lot of wind energy with them in certain areas. So damaging winds is going to happen today. Will a couple tornadoes happen? Let's hope not, but it's possible. Okay, but this is your risk right here. There is a risk a little bit for some severe weather in the northern and central plains right in here. Kind of the same areas that were affected by weather last week, but just a marginal risk of storms. We're going to zoom into this area For you folks wondering, this is a very zoomed out look. I barely can tell what's going on. I'm going to zoom into that area here in a second. But you look at the flooding risk today, you have a slight risk of flash flood guidance being met. That is at least a 15% risk of that criteria. So please be careful. 1 to 2 inches of rain could fall in this corridor right through. In fact, you've already picked up a lot of rain in southern Indiana, but 1 to 2 inches of rain could fall in central, southern, southeast Kentucky, even into the mountainous regions of Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, southern West Virginia. We'll talk about what the National Weather Service is saying over the next 24 hours here in a second. But let's zoom into this. So, enhanced risk in the orange, slight risk in the yellow, dark green is the moderate risk. I'm sorry, not the moderate risk, the marginal risk. So, if you're wondering what towns and cities this does include, London, Kentucky is one. I know that's probably not a town that's on a lot of people's radar as far as knowing towns and cities. Hazard, Harlan, Kentucky, Middlesboro, Kentucky, Bristol, Tennessee, not quite down to Knoxville, Tennessee, but you guys could certainly see some severe weather today. You're under a slight risk. Morristown, Rogersville, Kingsport, Johnson City. I said Bristol, Mountain City, Marion, Virginia, Grundy, Virginia. Sorry, I got a text message and interrupted me. Waz, Virginia. I know this is a lot of small towns. But, Mount Airy, North Carolina, you could see some nasty weather. Boone, you guys, I made a joke on Twitter yesterday saying Boone is my target area for storm chasing if I'm storm chasing. But that's a joke. Boone sits about, I believe, over 4,000 feet up in the air. You don't want to storm chase 4,000 feet up in the air unless you're in a flat region. But, a lot of area. Roanoke, you guys could see some severe weather today under the slight risk. But, I just kind of want to throw out some towns and cities. I always like to do that for you folks, give you guys some shout outs. I'm a little bit more familiar with these geographical locations than I am other areas out west. But I'm learning. And basically in the area where you do have the enhanced risk, you have a 5% risk. All those communities and towns I just mentioned, cities, you have a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in the given location. If you didn't watch the video last night, or if you didn't know, this has increased from a 2% risk. And the 2% risk is actually cut off from the coast. This was stretching all the way to the coastline of northeast North Carolina, southeast Virginia. Not anymore, okay? Hail threat, 15% risk of hail pushing 1 inch in diameter or larger in this huge yellow area. Okay, so this extends further, along the North Carolina-Virginia border, okay? And I definitely think we could get some supercell activity way out here away, kind of east of the Appalachian Mountains. I definitely think it's possible. There's a little bit, we call it a microclimate because of just the difference in elevation. So, there's some great storm chasers in Virginia that will probably be chasing this. And by the way, I want to throw this out real quick. I might be chasing myself. I'm very spontaneous with chasing. So if I drop a video here an hour after this video, I'm saying, hey, surprise, I'm chasing. Don't be surprised. That's how I am. I don't really plan out my stuff very well. I'm very spontaneous. Spontaneous is better sometimes, but it's great to have a plan too. So. 30% risk of damaging, a 30% risk of winds pushing 50 knots or higher in this red area. Okay, so that's basically a 30% risk of winds pushing 55 to 60 miles per hour. There's no hatch risk yet. That could change. But you got a 30% risk of winds hitting that criteria within 25 miles in the given location, basically in the entire enhanced risk area. I really think winds are going to be a big threat today. I think the low-level jet is going to swing through this area, and then the winds are going to mix to the surface, and the NAM is very worrisome because the NAM really shows a bowing line of storms, which really produce the damaging winds. And I'll compare the NAM with the HRRR model, which I'm about to do here in a second. But listen, I know a lot of people view my channel, and I'm thankful for that in this region. And you're certainly going to have some kind of uncharacteristic, nasty weather in this region. Even in severe weather season, you don't see a whole lot of crazy weather in this region. But you're going to see some nasty storms today. So I'm going to try to look at the latest kind of model guidance here, but it's not going to go all the way out. But the latest HRRR model, the one that hot off the press, we'll start this off. If you're in Central Time, back this right up here 1 hour. If you're in Eastern Time, it's correct. We're going to start off around 8 a.m. Eastern time. We'll get this rolling. That same convection will begin to refire. This is around lunchtime today, 12 p.m., 1 p.m. So you got the storm activity beginning to fire, beginning to increase here in kind of northern, northwest Kentucky, and it'll quickly begin to drift downward, if you will. I would watch these cells. There's going to be a boundary into here somewhere that separates very unstable air with more stable air to the north. So down here is unstable air, up here is unstable air. I'm sorry, up here is more stable air. Stable air, might as well say that. So this entire area throughout the afternoon after lunchtime will really begin to unstable, begin to get unstable. I'm mixing my words up, tongue twisters here. So we'll watch to see how much it does. How much does the atmosphere begin to get juiced up for severe weather in this region? How much does the Cape build? How much does storm fuel build into this region? We'll keep this rolling. This is around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Central Kentucky could be having some severe weather. We'll see. We got some convection firing off, around Danville, Virginia, kind of northern counties in North Carolina in this region. And we keep this rolling here. And we got to watch these little cells in the eastern Kentucky hills right in this region. Anything that basically, this is probably going to be a cluster of storms. 3, 4 p.m., clustered up area of storms. The Storm Prediction Center mentions if anything gets discrete, a supercell, it's going to have a chance to produce a tornado. Okay, so I would say that this one's discrete, but this is just one model run, guys. We don't read this and look at this like, oh, there's going to be a storm right on top of Jackson, Kentucky, West Liberty, Paintsville, Kentucky, which is some of these little towns right in this region. But what I can tell you is if any of these do get discrete, they could produce a quick spin up. But really, this is the area right here that I'd watch. Just a line of storms begins to develop kind of on the southwest extent of this area of energy around 4 or 5 p.m. This is what the picture could look like. You could have some isolated cells kind of in the foothills, the mountainous regions, even outside the mountainous regions of Virginia. Could have some storms, kind of around the Hickory, Lincolnton area, Shelby region of North Carolina. And, we'll talk about this here in a second, but this is just regular pop-up energy down here. But you keep this going, and this really develops into, I would say, a big-time line of storms that begins to sink more so northwest to southeast, and this begins to blast through the rest of eastern Kentucky throughout the evening hours, western Virginia also. Look at this big cell right here around the North Carolina-Virginia border. And this continues to sink into northeast Tennessee. I would venture to say that this line of storms is still hanging a lot more stronger than what this is indicating right here. But this continues to sink down. And how much does these storms maintain by the time they get to the eastern side of the Appalachian Mountains? It's around 10 p.m. tonight. We got storms beginning to enter the Chattanooga area, North Georgia, and getting close to the upstate of South Carolina as they move in, but they begin to weaken. But I would watch the storms over here too in this region today. They could be severe also. But you look at the NAM. The NAM is concerning, especially for damaging winds. The latest NAM from overnight, the latest one that we can look at, same kind of evolution at first as the HRRR model, but it quickly, around 1 to 2 p.m., develops a nasty area of storms in western Kentucky. These quickly gain some speed. And there's 2 areas to watch, 3 to 4 p.m. You got this area of the kind of discrete convection firing up along the valleys in the Cumberland Plateau of Tennessee and southeast Virginia. And then you have this, I would say, more significant area of storms developing. And I know that it just looks like just a congealed line of storms, but this could very well have an embedded spin up, an embedded tornado or 2 in this. So we can't rule that out. But you got to watch these individual areas right here, convection right in this region. Okay, even here in Virginia, around 4 or 5 p.m. But this is the line of storms that are concerning. You stop it right here. This is around 4 or 5 p.m. Okay. You dive down here. You look at Somerset's, Monticello, Albany, not sure how y'all pronounce y'all's Albany or Albany in Kentucky. Tompkinsville, even Bowling Green. Bowling Green, might be a little bit too west, but I would say watch out Bowling Green, Kentucky, right in the early to mid-afternoon time frame. These storms blast through, and look at this bowing out area right here. That is concerning to me. If this happens, we could have some significant wind damage somewhere in southern southeast Kentucky, northern northeast sections of Tennessee, and trying to find some smaller towns, London, Kentucky, Williamsburg, Kentucky, Barberville, Kentucky, Pineville, Kentucky, Caryville, Tennessee. So just trying to spit out a couple names here on the fly, and then we get into, I would just watch out this entire area right where Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia meet for a very vigorous line of storms sometime later this evening that could blast through. And I would watch this convection too. In Virginia, I'm telling you, watch this. This area is known for some crazy storm activity and an isolated tornado, but this will blast through the Appalachian Mountains late in the evening, and we'll see if these will maintain themselves deeper into the Carolinas throughout the afternoon. But please be careful with this today. You look at the significant tornado parameter off the NAM. We'll back it up a little bit here, and it really wants to, it really likes to maximize this right along this boundary. Remember, the stable air is up here, unstable air here, instabilities down here. It likes this corridor of spin because there's a separation between two different wind directions in general, in a way. So this helps to, like gears, create a spin to the atmosphere. But, embedded in this line of storms, you could certainly see a spin up or two. And, same thing with the HRRR model today. You look at the significant tornado parameter that builds into this region. All right, come on. We're in the 10Z now. Move it here. And it really likes up here. It really likes that boundary right up into here. And then, you got to watch out over here in Virginia also. I would watch this area. So we'll see what happens. But I can tell you the ingredients is there. The convective energy, the CAPE, builds into the area. You got CAPE that builds in very quickly. And that tells me that it warms up very quickly today. I think it'll be in the 80s very fast today in southern Kentucky, northeast Tennessee. You'll notice that it'll feel like there's some storms coming. CAPE values build well over 1,000 joules per kilogram. Could have some areas well over 1,500 joules per kilogram. So the juice builds into the air for sure. And then you look at the low-level jet, okay, which is that winds at about a mile up in the atmosphere, about 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet up in the atmosphere. And look at this little maximum area. You got a 40 knot, maybe 50 knot in areas, 40 to 45 knot low-level jet that blasts through this area of Kentucky, northeast Tennessee, and western Virginia today. One, this helps the tornado threat. Two, this really, really helps the damaging wind threat in this region. So please be careful. I'm telling you, these winds will mix to the surface, and you're going to have some intense winds with some of these storms. I can almost guarantee you it. But rainfall today, please don't ignore this. A quick 1 to 2 inches, maybe 3 inches of rain is possible in areas of Kentucky, right through the heart of Kentucky, eastern Kentucky, western Virginia, even southern areas of West Virginia could get a quick 1 or 2 inches of rain in this region today. So I hope that helps. Like I said, I might be chasing this area today, so stay tuned. I will not be going live. The cell phone service I've heard from many people was absolutely horrid up here. And plus, I don't have my setup quite ready to do that yet. And I'm still up in the air on what I want to do also. But, this is what we're watching really today. This is a little surface low that moves through, promotes the atmosphere for some significant severe weather, and we'll watch it. But, everywhere else, standard pop-up showers and storms down here in Alabama. Really anywhere in Alabama could see them throughout the afternoon and evening. Even back in western Tennessee, you guys could see some pop-up showers and storms. I would say the entire eastern half of Arkansas, all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Afternoon showers and storms are possible. And then I would say some convection fires up in basically the entire central area of the peninsula of Florida today, and then diminishes as quickly as it fires up. And then we'll watch later tonight the leftovers kind of from what happens to the northwest will kind of drift into the Carolinas. Really hoping this happens. We really need some rain from the sky rather than my irrigation system and everybody's sprinkler system. And then by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, could have some storms ongoing in Alabama. We'll see what happens with that. Northeast, interesting kind of day today, I would say. You got some showers moving through, showers moving through Ontario, Canada, moving through Maine. And it'll be a rainy, chilly day in central Maine especially. But this will kind of sweep through. Not a very cool, it's not going to be a cold day in the Northeast today. Tomorrow will be a different story. The cold front is actually moving in. But I would say sometime this afternoon, northern New York State, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Some showers begin to move in the association of a cold front. And, this begins to kind of dig in. But, for my folks in Virginia, the Delmarva area, you guys could see some weather too. Some severe weather is possible, all the way into, southern Maryland, even southern Delaware could see some severe weather sometime this afternoon. But this moves in, and then showers continue to linger. And then by the time we get into tomorrow morning, it is cold enough for some snow showers in Maine, northern New Hampshire. And then as we get deep into tomorrow, some ongoing snow showers are possible throughout the northern country of the Northeast. Pretty wild to watch. But, you watch the temperatures today in the Northeast. I mean, you'll probably hit 80 degrees in and around the Boston area, New York City, southern New England. Beautiful day. But if you notice, it may be warmer in areas of Vermont, New Hampshire, northern New York State, in the morning than it is in the afternoon. You see how these temperatures are crashing to the north. So pretty wild stuff. This cold front is sharp enough to actually drop the temperatures throughout the day. But this is around high temperatures today. Afternoon temperatures, I would say. And, the southern areas of Ontario right in here, you notice 70s getting up close to 80s, but you drive a little further north, it's only in the 40s. So temperatures will actually drop in this region. Pretty wild to see. So, and south central U.S., pretty quiet day today. Standard pop-up showers, maybe a storm is possible in Arkansas. And then southeast Texas could see some convection firing up. And then we'll certainly watch for maybe a little storm action in eastern northeast Colorado and then southwest Nebraska. But other than that, guys, not much to speak on in the south central U.S. You could wake up to some shower activity as moisture builds back into southern Missouri and Arkansas in this region. North central U.S. today, kind of a backdoor cold front scenario with this deep digging trough that moves in over the Northeast. You'll be influenced by it also on kind of the southwest flank of this cold front. This moves in and drops temperatures in the UP of Michigan, Wisconsin throughout the day today. As far as weather associated with this front, this takes us all the way throughout 24 hours. Not much going on. Not much going on at all. But you'll watch these temperatures. And you going to get in motion for me? Here we go. You watch these temperatures a day. For example, Green Bay. I mean, by the time you're late morning today, you'll cruise way up into the 70s. All right, almost 80 degrees in Green Bay. But by the time you get to 1, 2, 3 o'clock, temperatures will crash into the 60s and eventually into the 50s. Okay, kind of same thing in Chicago, but the front, Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee. You'll climb all the way into the 70s and 80s today, and then sometime later this afternoon, this evening, a front will blast through and your temperatures will dramatically drop, maybe as much as 20 degrees in a matter of 10, 15 minutes. And, it's a pretty impressive. I mean, look at the 30s in the middle of the afternoon up here in Canada. Pretty wild. So, for example, my folks up here in the UP, you might climb up into the 60s here in the coming hours, and then the temperatures will dramatically drop into the 50s and even 40s by the time you're settling down for the evening. So I think some people call this a pneumonia front just because I think it's dramatic temperature drop can get you sick. I think that's what drives the nickname there. But, I mean, somebody could hit 90 degrees in Minnesota today. But the front really doesn't influence this area as much, but pretty wild stuff today for sure, temperatures. But, temperatures as far as the country as a whole, very warm in the southeast and south today. 90s are possible, even where it says 80s, 90s are possible. Very warm all the way up into this area, this boundary right here near this surface low. Little triple point will be met up here in Kentucky where all your best overlapping dynamics occur. But, cold up here in Maine for May standards, chilly temperatures moving into the Great Lakes region, area of kind of clouds and rain, cold air in this region of the Midwest and Plains region right here, Mississippi Valley. But outside of that, guys, stay tuned. Might be chasing, might not. We'll see what happens. But Regardless, listen, there's some interesting things coming up. I'm watching a little bit of a spin off the coast of the southeast, and what sucks is what stinks. I shouldn't say sucks, but what stinks is, you know, I'm happy for it, but I'm going on vacation this weekend, and I'm starting to expect we're going to have a little bit of active weather this weekend. We have a day 4 slight risk for areas of the southern plains, and I'm watching a spin maybe this weekend, maybe another spin later next week. Sometimes when you get these stall frontal boundaries, we can get a spin that develops basically off leftover energy. But, you know, I'm not going to be able to talk about it as much. So I'm going to try to feed you guys as much information between now and Thursday as possible to keep you guys updated. But that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. Stay safe out there. Nasty weather across the southern Appalachian Mountains. God bless all y'all. Have a great day.